Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
can you hear us now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
How is the volume? Because sometimes Zoom, the volume isn't quite right.
Are you sure you're using your headset mic or are you using your computer mic?
I'm checking the settings right now.
There you go.
I'm using the headset mic, but the level was low. How's that
Oh,
level?
that's
Yeah,
way
much better.
better. Way
That's
better.
Okay.
better.
All right. I'm glad we checked. This is so
Yeah.
professional already.
Yes, I know, right? Because we want
Yes,
nothing else but to be professional.
exactly.
I'm super excited about this, and I'm gonna apologize if I fangirl all over you, but I will try to be professional. I'm
Me
Marla. I will be
too.
teching this. I know, because I've
Okay.
heard about you. I've heard you're not professional, really.
Exactly.
Um, Sorry, I'm gonna stop now. God, before I say
Okay.
something bad. Um, just a reminder to turn off any sound notifications near you. Although I don't care what you do, talk as long as you want, talk
Turn.
as slow as you want, talk as fast as you want. I'm just so glad you're here.
Okay.
But turn off
That's
any sound
great.
notifications
Any
that you have if
sound
you can,
notifications? Oh,
like your
sorry.
phone, like if your
Okay.
phone beeps.
Okay, got it.
If you have any animals near you and they start to make noise, you have to introduce them to the
Oh,
I'm
audience.
actually
right.
in a hotel room. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
at some point, my wife is going to come in to take a shower, but that's in another room. So, a room dedicated to showering.
Well,
Okay.
this is we are recording this on Zoom, and I full disclosure, we'll probably upload this onto my YouTube page just because I'm super excited. But we normally don't. So
Okay.
if we have any sort of like weird visual thing happen, I promise to edit that out.
So you're going to
Um,
basically, so you're going to use the video too.
I'm going to use the unedited video unless you say something you don't want me to include.
Just
I
because
don't care. I'll be
she's
fine.
thrilled. Marla is just
I'm
thrilled. I'm
yeah.
thrilled too, but not
Okay.
like this woman. She's
I know.
Okay.
Sorry.
I
And
mean, my daughter has your poster, but that's
okay.
another, yeah.
All
So
right.
he's
Well.
like, all right, enough.
Enough.
So,
Okay.
because we're not commercial, we can't say the words ticket donations are free or anything like that. Again, if you say anything like that, I'll just edit it out.
Okay.
Because we can say, if you want to join us, there's a handful of tickets left. Go to the Mount Baker Theater website,
Okay.
and I've got pictures that Ruthie or Francis sent me, so I'm good with that. And then Margaret will let everybody know when it'll be aired, and you can share that as much as you want. And I have a question at the end. I will be here, but I will be silent because
Okay.
what? Did you have any questions before we
No, that's
start?
all fine. No, it's great. We're
He
doing
thinks
great.
I'm glad I'm
Okay.
entertaining you now. Okay, all right.
Good
I'll
Okay.
so
shut up.
far.
All right,
Okay.
have
And I
fun.
haven't introduced myself. I'm Margaret Bikman. I'm the
Hi,
one who's
Margaret.
doing the interview. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
All right, have fun.
All right. So, you seem to have made it from a child magician who does sleight of hand tricks to a radio magician who does things with ideas. Can you talk a little bit about that whole transition from magic tricks to radio magic?
I mean, it's funny. My time as a kid magician playing birthday parties was a long time ago, and I wasn't a great magician, but I did have a will to entertain, and 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 I think in making This American Life, like one of the things that came out of was I was working at NPR as a producer at All Things Considered, Morning Edition, and I always had this feeling of like, oh no, these stories could have more feeling. They could just feel like more. They could do more. They could be funnier. They could like just get to you more, and then really set about trying to figure out how that could be, and tried to just invent and also just like imitate other people who were doing a good job of creating stories which have a lot of feeling, where you just kind of get caught up in the feeling of the story and you want to see what happens. And so that's the connection between the two, to the degree that there is one.
Well, I realize now that I forgot to introduce you.
Oh,
So I'll introduce you. I'm talking with Ira Glass, producer and host of This American Life. And Ira Glass will be at Mount Baker Theater in Bellingham, 7:30, January 24th. So let's go on. I want to talk about storytelling a little bit later, but I'm wondering how you find that special program that, as you say many times, produces pleasure, surprise, and most of all, active listening, and how you keep the listener engaged.
I mean, like the things we do in our show are very traditional kinds of story moves. You know, like we need a plot. Like one of the things I'm going to talk about on stage, like in Bellingham, like partly the show is just like a bunch of fun stories that are really just fun to tell in front of an audience that are just like stories on our radio show. But one of the things I do talk about is like what makes our show different from most shows on radio or podcasts. And like the first thing we're looking for when we're looking for a story is that we're looking for the plot. Like basically you need things to happen that will be surprising to hear about. And we do that whether it's just like small personal stories or whether it's something in the news. And so for example, like during the Gaza war, like lots of journalists were calling around to people in Gaza looking for stories, but in contrast to what you would look for a daily news show, where you would look for like what's happening today, can you get food, are there bombings and things near you, like how are you feeling, what's your take on this whole war. Instead of those kinds of questions, the things we are looking for is we're looking for narrative. And so like one of our producers, Hannah Jaffe Walt, was calling around and found this guy, and when I'm on stage, I play a little bit of this tape that she got. In the first 15 minutes, she finds out that what he was doing that week was he was trying to convince his sisters to move from one city in Gaza, where they were living, to where he was living, because he had become convinced that the Israelis were about to bomb the city they were in, and they didn't want to go. They didn't want to move. And partly because he had bought like some land, a little piece of land, and some tents for them to live on. And one of his sisters, his youngest sister, was 8.5 months pregnant and just didn't want to live in a tent. She's like, I want a bathroom. Like, I'm pregnant. And so then he started to build her a bathroom. And something like that is sort of like, you just get people in a family in a race against time where he's trying to get them out. They don't want to go. Either he's right or he's not right, and you could just follow it. Like, and you have characters and you have a situation and you want to find out what's going to happen. Like, all of that is the stuff that we need in our stories. It's very different from what you need in a kind of a more traditional sort of piece of journalism.
Well, my son teaches middle school, and he uses your expose on how storytelling for broadcasting differs from what you've been taught in high school, as you say.
Okay.
Yeah, and he pairs up his students and has one student interview the other, and then the person who does the interviewing retells that person's story.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
isn't it cool? And these
Yeah.
are middle school students. So they learn how to build a conversation and how to keep, the rest of the class engaged in the story
Oh, that's
and
really
also
interesting.
ask the right questions. So I'm I'm wondering how you and the others who host your shows keep the listener actively engaged. What techniques do you use?
I mean, partly it's having a story where you just want to hear what's going to happen. Like honestly, like that's so much of it. Um, and then after that, like you want to create the characters. You want the characters to exist in the story in a way where you just kind of like you want to hear more about them. You want to hear stuff. So often we'll put into a story in the first couple of minutes. We look for and like we interview people hoping for like some kind of charming moment with somebody where like it might not even be related to the story, but you just will feel like, oh, I like them. And then you want to, and then, like it's a little bit of a hacky move. Can I say like to do something like that? But we are not above a hacky move. Like you like what keeps people listening is feeling like, oh, I'm into this person and I can connect to them and I just want to see how's this going to work out for them. Like that's 90% of it. And then after that, you just get into questions of like just pacing and things like that. And in that way, we make a version of the story and then we play it through to people. Like one person will write the story and then play it for the, three or four of us. And then we're just like, okay, this dragged a little bit, or you need to do more here. At this point, I didn't understand. But a lot of it, especially for radio, a lot of things just come down to like you just have to make the thing and notice the pacing. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we did this story in Portland, Oregon, where Zoe Chase went out with these right wing citizen journalist streamers who are there to expose what they believe are Antifa protesters in front of the ICE facility there. And it was this story where she sort of like, where as a listener, you have the experience that Zoe has, where she just is out on the street meeting person after person after person. And one of the tricky things in making a story like that is just like how many weird digressive moments do you include? So, for example, one thing that we like put in, that took out and put in, was that like literally in the middle of the story, a guy walks up to her dressed like the guy in The Big Lebowski, who announces to her, "I'm hippie MAGA." And like and then like he's on stage for like 45 seconds, and then there's a question of just like, do we include him and also the granny who this woman who they call Pam Tifa, who basically was at the January 6th protests and stormed the Capitol, and then I think she even did time for that, and then flipped to the other side. So now she's a leftist, and she shows up at all these protests. Like she walks on the stage for a second, and it's sort of like, there's a question of like how much digression can you do, like how many, like, oh, that moment's kind of funny, or like makes you have a feeling, but do we include that one, or do we do it? And that's just kind of you do by feel. Like but to answer your question, like all those things are part of making people keep listening. And the other thing that makes people keep listening is that you raise questions at the beginning of a story,
Right.
that hopefully people want to hear the answers to. That's another thing.
Kind of interesting that we are recording this on January the 6th.
I know. Yeah.
Uh, we won't go there though. So you've talked a lot about your love of Broadway musicals, and I'm wondering what their relationship is to the art of storytelling.
I mean, for me, like growing up, my mom took my sisters and I to a lot of those shows when they would come through Baltimore when I was growing up. She really loved those shows, and I feel like a lot of, and we had the Broadway cast albums around our house, and and I think a lot of my feeling about what makes a good story comes from those old school, 1960s and 70s and 80s musicals, Fiddler on the Roof and Cabaret and Godspell and Pippin and I think that like those shows all tend to start off kind of very light and funny, and and then just get deeper as they go. As the plot kicks in, they sort of become about something other than the kind of light thing that they were at the beginning, you know. Fiddler on the Roof starts off as kind of like a comedy about this guy who's trying to marry off his three daughters. And then by the time it's done, they're getting kicked out of Russia, and his daughters are turning their backs on the values that the dad holds dear. And it's just about these big, big things, right? And but like just that feeling that you get from that kind of very old-fashioned sort of story. I mean, I suppose there are movies that do that too, but for me personally, it was Broadway musicals. And when I was making radio stories at NPR, even though I was doing stories like featurey stories where there was a lot of feeling and there were funny moments and all that, I always felt like, oh, it could be more. Like it could be more like this. And it wasn't until like I started doing This American Life and was doing the show for a few years that it occurred to me that the aesthetic of our show is basically the same as the aesthetic of those old Broadway
Huh.
musicals. That we always try to start with like kind of a little funny thing at the top, and then like got to get deeper, and like I feel like without realizing I was imitating that unconsciously, I did imitate that, and that's very much like the structure and the feeling that we go for in our show.
Yeah, that's one of the things you've written about or talked about is that you may start out with an anecdote and then you proceed to questions that you may have. What's going to happen next? What's next? And that kind of keeps the listener going
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a kind of out of the blue question about what you do, how it compares to what your first cousin once removed, Philip Glass, does with his music.
Well, right. My cousin is a famous composer who does minimalist music and does operas and things like that. And the thing he is specifically known for is that the stories are not narrative. That is we represent two very opposing camps, and he and I have discussed this. And I think that when he was coming up as a composer in the 70s and 80s, he and his collaborators like Robert Wilson and people like that, they just felt like the whole idea of like doing a story on stage in an opera just seemed really corny to them. It just seemed so corny. And instead, what they would do is stage like little micro moments of things that happen between people or big sort of imagistic kind of feelings, and they were just going for a really different approach to what an evening of theater would be. And yeah, like we definitely took very different paths when it came to that.
Well, you know, I've watched your discussions with him, obviously, and you seem to have the same idea about how to entertain people too, how to keep the listener engaged.
I guess like I feel like I guess I mean like I Philip definitely wants to engage an audience for sure, and his
Yeah.
music is designed to engage, but it's using tools that are so different. I mean, and his early stuff is so deeply repetitive and about kind of like noticing shifting patterns in time that like it's so not the pleasure of a story, you know, like it's really, really about something else. His later work, he gets much more romantic, and his later symphonies and stuff become more traditional in a lot of ways. But anyway, yeah, like I see his work as being very different.
Okay, I know that. So one of the differences between soft feature stories and more hard edge programs, when you come upon a story, how do you decide how to approach it?
I'm just going to pause because I think my wife is trying to get into this hotel room we're in or something. Hold on. I'm just going to like, done. Is that true? No, it's not true. Okay.
Oh, we got a
All right.
tour. Look at that.
Yes. All right. Sorry. Can you ask the question again? I'm so
Yes.
sorry.
How do you approach a story from a soft feature story to more hard edge newsy type program? If
I
you
mean,
come upon.
honestly, like we don't treat them that differently. Like to me, like actually, the thing that's best is actually if you treat the hard news stories exactly like the little soft feature stories. That is, like you want like the people to be vivid and fun to listen to, and even if they're in like some very desperate or difficult situation, you kind of want the thing to roll out the same way, like whether it's a soft story or kind of a news related story. I mean, if anything, I feel like we're very aware, you know, that when people, by the time people get to hearing our show either on the radio or as a podcast, chances are they're very familiar with what happened in the news, and might not even have much appetite to hear more about the news. And so we really have to offer a really different way in. And then the way we do it is just by like just kind of introducing you to a bunch of characters in a situation, which we would do if it's like a really funny, light piece of nothing, or if it's something like very, you know, about something in the news.
Yeah. I didn't mention that the theme of your presentation that you're touring 7 things I've learned, and I hope I'm not taking away from any of that stuff that you're going to do on stage, but I know you're going to be
I mean,
playing.
honestly, for one of the things I talk about how we make stories, and I play a couple of examples. But most of the show is really just like there's stories that are like stories we put on the radio, but just really fun, good ones. Like, so that's what it is.
Well, I think people may believe that you are on NPR, National Public Radio, which you are not, correct?
Officially not, no, but
Yes.
like, yeah. Well, NPR, like, I think you'd really have to work in public broadcasting to know this, but NPR is the company that makes like All Things Considered, Morning Edition, and distributes Fresh Air, and we are just an independent show that shows up on public radio stations, but
Hmm.
most of the stations are NPR stations, so it makes sense that people would think that we are an NPR show, but we're
It's,
like a little independent show on our
yeah,
own.
PRX, right?
PRX is our distributor.
Your
Yeah, yeah,
distributor. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask this out of the blue again. Uh, Marla posted something on her Facebook page about how you influenced the writing of her memoir. And
Oh,
I want Marla to explain a little bit about how what you have done has influenced Marla. So, Marla,
Margaret.
the mic is yours right now.
Oh my gosh. So in 2010, 2009, I was diagnosed with an acoustic neuroma, which I had operated on and removed in 2010. And in the course of that, I kept a journal, an online journal. And some friends of mine who own an independent bookstore at the time, Chuck and D. Robinson, said, "You should turn this into a book." It's like, who cares about this book? Who's going to care? And they said, somebody will. And so I started writing this. I started working with a publisher. And then I started having major imposter syndrome. And then you posted The Gap. The Gap
I
is
see.
would you call it poetry? There's a piece about
It
there's the
wasn't
gap
poetry.
between
It wasn't poetry. It was really, it was just something I said in an interview to somebody, and then people started making videos out of it.
it became my mantra. It became my mantra because I said, well, you know what? What's the worst thing that could happen? And so I published the book. And when you were in Bellingham the last time, my husband and I, who we do have a lot of volunteer work at the Mount Baker, can't believe I'm telling this story. We snuck backstage, walked right by you. You were talking to somebody back outside,
Okay.
and we snuck backstage. I went into your dressing room, did not touch anything except put my book and a note on your dressing table thanking you. You probably have thrown the book away. It's totally okay. I just felt like I just needed to give that to you. So thank you for your support and your encouragement and your inspiration. And it just meant a lot to me. And I frequently will repost The Gap because I think it's brilliant. I think with all of the people that I work with who are in the arts and in creative endeavors, it's really been helpful to me
That's
The,
to
really
ti-
nice of
the,
you to say.
the title of her book is A Whole New Normal, just
Okay.
to give her some props.
thank
I mean,
you.
I should say, like, what the gap is for people who are hearing this, who don't know what we're talking about. Like, this is a thing I said in an interview that just like people started setting videos to, like sending images to, and basically I talk about how when you're starting off making any kind of work, doing any kind of creative work, there's a phase where you're aware that it isn't as good as you want it to be. And there's a gap between like what it is and what you're hoping it would be. And then it's just a really difficult time for anybody who wants to make stuff. And a lot of people basically give up at that point. And the thing that I say in that video, which is true, is like it's an incredibly discouraging moment. Like I basically spent 10 years of my life like that, feeling like, oh, these stories could be more than they are, but I didn't know how to get there. And then the question is like, so what do you do when you're in that phase? While you're in that gap where you know like your stuff could be better and it's not as good as you want, and really like the only thing you can do is work your way out of it. That is, you just have to put yourself on a deadline. You have to make a quantity of work, and that's, you basically have to just like make a lot of work, and that's what gets you out of it. Recently, I saw this quote by this writer named Michael Cunningham, who
Oh,
won
yeah.
the Pulitzer Prize for his book The Hours that they made into a movie, and and he said that he said this thing that when I read it, I was like, oh, I believe that. Like, I didn't realize like that was a thought I had, but what he said, like, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I think. He said, I don't believe in talent. He said, what I believe in is there's a certain kind of person who has a sort of OCD-ish, kind of obsessive nature when it comes to the question, how do I make this better? And he said that was his experience, and that was definitely my experience. Like I didn't, I didn't come into making stories or making radio with a natural talent for making radio stories or making stories at all or telling stories. Like I really had to figure out a way that made sense for me to make them. And like really just like put it together like bit by bit over time.
Did you ever have, as Marla said, the imposter syndrome that you couldn't really believe what you were doing, how successful you are, in other words?
I didn't have imposter syndrome because I feel like I wasn't that successful. Like it wasn't going that well. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like people were like, "Oh, you're doing so good." I mean, like I wasn't that good, and it was obvious to people around me that I wasn't that good.
But you are, you
So,
are. So, yeah,
well, I got to a point where I understood that I knew what I was doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I do. I mean, it's like it's not exactly imposter syndrome, but sometimes in situations like an interview like this, it feels a little bit like people are making a fuss about just like something that doesn't seem like it should be made a fuss out of. You know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the tour is real, and it'll be exciting when you go to Portland and meet the people on the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're still there. I want to talk a little bit about public radio, just the nature of what's going on in the world with public radio and your thoughts about that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, like, are you talking about which thing are you talking about? The fact that the federal government has cut off its funding?
That's it. That's it.
I mean, I think that I supported. I believe in public radio. I've worked in public radio my whole adult life, and and uh, and while I feel like there are things that public radio could have been covering a little more of here or there, I feel like by and large it was accurate, it was timely, and it continues to be like an accurate, timely source of news. And so, like I think that the attempt to like paint it as this like big leftist propaganda machine wasn't accurate,
Yeah.
and I personally believe that like it's not a bad thing for the government to come in and fund broadcasting so it will not have to have commercials. That said, like I do think that enough people listen to public radio that I'd like to believe that people will step up and public radio will continue to survive, and those of us who like it and believe in it will continue to fund it. So.
What am I not asking that you would like our listeners on KMRE to know about you? And I mentioned, I don't know if you got my questions that I was going to ask you ahead of time. Like, are you,
I
are you
saw
still,
I saw that you sent those, but like honestly, like I just felt like, oh, you should just ask whatever you want.
oh, good.
I
Well,
didn't even I didn't
like,
even read them. Like I was just like, whatever. Like
oh, that's
it's your
fine. Well,
interview. Just do whatever you want.
but I'm a librarian, and one of the things that I was doing research on was, is that bit about cooking rabbits for your rescue dog. I just thought that was hilarious and fascinating. You probably aren't doing that anymore.
No, that dog is passed. So
Oh no.
yeah. Well, I mean, he was old. Like that story was years and years ago. He didn't get like hit by a bus or anything. He
Oh,
just lived his
just
full life.
died.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
good.
But thank you for your sympathy. He was a
Well, yeah,
sweet
yeah.
dog.
So what am I not asking? This is community radio. Oh, and by the way, I have two invitations for you while you're in Bellingham. One is to visit our studio on the campus of Watkin Community College, where I am a reference librarian. It's this very small studio, and I will reach out to Ruthie, I guess, and let her know the details of that. But the other thing that I would really like you to see when you are in Bellingham is the Spark Museum of Electrical Invention, which began as the American Museum of Radio and Electricity. And at that museum, which is only like 2 blocks away from the theater where you're going to be talking, there are radios and artifacts from the earliest days of the 1600s through the 1940s and the golden age of radio. And it is at the museum. It's the largest collection of 19th century electromagnetic apparatus found in any private collection. It has many examples of radio broadcasting technology and memorabilia. And I think you would really enjoy spending some time. So I will send that to
Okay,
Ruthie too.
I would enjoy both those things. I have to say, like I started working at NPR when I was 19, but when I was
Uh-huh.
trying to become a reporter, I didn't begin that at NPR. I began it at a community radio station,
Yeah.
WPFW in Washington. So I'm very familiar with community radio, and really, have a lot of love for community radio, and really have spent a lot of time doing community radio myself. And so, look, and is it a station where like basically people take shifts and everybody comes in for like a couple hours? You get like a 2 hour shift or a 1 hour shift, that kind of thing.
That's how it is. We have news programs and like programs like mine, which are pre-recorded and then broadcast later. So it's a smattering of since a few syndicated programs as well. But it's a very small studio and it's right on campus. And I will connect you with our leader who she might take time out to actually give you a tour, which will be like 5 minutes. It's a very
Yeah.
small studio.
I mean, I'd like that. Like my problem is like I'm flying in and out the same day. So like usually
Oh,
I get in and then go there and have to tech in the show
oh,
and
well,
all.
you'll
Like
have
so.
all afternoon though, so
Okay. Well, if
just
it can work
walk.
out, I'd love to do that.
I think it would be great if you could.
And there's old like pieces of like old recording gear and stuff. Like a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, I went to there's a former Edison plant in New Jersey where Thomas
Yes,
Edison
yes.
worked, and they have the very first phonograph. They have the
Yeah.
very first one, which could record as well as play back. It was a disc,
Hmm.
machine, and I have to say, it felt very like weirdly emotional standing in front of that. I
Yeah.
feel like I spend so much of my time in front of recorders recording to be there standing by the very first one.
Yeah.
Just as like it was really amazing that it's so recent. you
And
know?
and that's exactly the kind of thing that the Spark Museum has. I think
Yeah.
you would really enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, they have dozens and dozens of radios, radios that your dad would have listened to and so on.
Yeah.
Just terrific. So
Okay.
I've been talking with Ira Glass, host of This American Life and producer of This American Life, will be at Mount Baker Theater, 7:30, January 24th. How can people find out more about This American Life?
This American Life has a website, so
Okay.
I'll go to thisamericanlife.org, or if you could just like search any podcast app you have, and you can find us by typing our name.
And find out more about the event at mountbakertheater.com. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a restful day and rest of our January 6th day today.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, you're
Okay,
welcome.
all right.
Thank
I
Thanks,
have
you
a real
guys.
quick question. A real quick question. One quick question. Have you ever watched Saturday Night Live?
Yeah,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course. What about it?
So do you know that James Austin Johnson has like perfected your voice?
No. What?
And
But he hasn't done it
I
on
looked
TV,
for it.
right?
He has not done it on TV. I actually reached out to him and asked him for a recording of it. He said, as far as he knows, there are none. But apparently, that is his best impression is the one of you, and he's amazing.
But how would you know that if he's never done it on
Bec-
TV?
well, sadly, because he talked about it during an interview where he has actually pitched to do your voice. This is my understanding. He's pitched to do your voice in a couple of times, and the people at Saturday Night Live said, and this is a semi quote, nobody knows NPR, nobody knows Ira Glass well enough to know who that is.
I mean,
Now,
it's interesting
that
because
being said, Fred Armisen
years
has
ago,
done it. Fred Armisen has done it, and his is fine, but James Austin Johnson is amazing. So I'd love you to ask him here, and I'll send it to him to do your voice and record it.
oh, that's okay. I don't need to hear him
Well, you were
doing my
going to say
voice. I believe
something.
it.
You were going to say something about that.
I
Well,
was,
Fred, I know a
oh,
little bit, like, and because years ago I heard that he was doing that he had worked up an imitation of me and kept pitching it to Saturday Night Live, saying like, and basically they had to keep telling him like that guy isn't famous enough to make fun of on Saturday Night Live, and then we did a doppelgangers episode of our show where basically I thought like, okay, so I have this like incredibly skilled comedian who can do an imitation of me. There's no market for it on television because people haven't heard of me enough. But you know where people have heard of me? People who've listened to my show have heard of me. So we had him come on and do it on our show, and he co-hosted an episode of our show, a doppelgangers episode, where he co-hosted as my evil twin, or my twin, who wasn't
oh,
actually
that's
evil.
great.
Yeah,
And that went well.
Yeah.
that was really fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can feel free to play a clip of that here if you want.
I will look for it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. It was so
Thank
nice to
you
talk to
so
you.
much. This
Nice to
was
talk to you
great.
too.
All
Okay.
right. All
See you
right.
soon. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I can't believe you did that to me.
Even better, that's your own video.
Oh my God.
You didn't have any idea I was going to do that.
I had no idea you were going to do that. Oh my
Ha.
God.
Ha. Ha.
Well, that
So,
makes up for all of it.
doesn't it? Okay. How do
Okay,
you think that
Margaret.
went? Do you think did that go okay?
It did. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
He was lovely. He was
Yeah.
lovely.
Yes. Just conversational. That's
Yeah.
why I guess I wasn't nearly as nervous about. I mean, I was excited, but not nervous about it like I was with Fran, because he just seems like somebody you invite into your home. So,
Yeah. Yeah. He just looks like somebody you hang out with.
yep.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Done and
Well,
done.
done
So,
and done.
when do I want to air this? Um, Air it this Saturday, the 10th and the
Okay.
14th.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You got it.
And the video too. Put that, I
And
mean,
the
are you
video.
going to put the
Oh, the
video
video I
up?
can put up today.
Oh, good. On yours, on your Facebook page or what?
It'll be on my YouTube page, but then I'll link it to my Facebook page.
Okay. I guess you can't put it up. We can't post on KMRE. You can tag it.
You can tag. I can tag KMRE.
Yeah. And tag me too.
I will tag you, KMRE, and Mount Baker
and
Theater.
then I'll share it as well.
Because there's nothing on here that I needed to edit out.
No, not an
Not a second. I didn't
Not
edit
a-
out Fran's. I'm not, it's like I don't need to edit out the people who
I
do
know.
this for a living. So yeah.
Even the wife taking the shower. We're trying to get
She
in the
wasn't
hotel.
taking a shower. She
Yeah, I
didn't even show
know.
up. She just
That
took a
wasn't
walk around
on.
there.
Oh, that wasn't part of the recording, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh, but that she was going to come in and take a shower.
Yes,
Yeah, but
but she didn't.
but she
So
didn't.
we're good. No,
We
there
just
were
got the
no
tour of
naked
the
people
hotel.
in the making of this video.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yay.